Welcome to the Better Together podcast, where we look for ways we can work together to advance the gospel of Jesus Christ. Today we have with us one of my longtime friends, Chaplain, and I guess now retired Chaplain, Lieutenant Colonel Tracy Kerr is with us in the studios today. And boy, we go all the way back. And so when I was the first and the only pastor I ever had, Tracy was there. I put him on the spot all the time like I'm doing now. Had him, he was singing, he would fill in, he would help in so many ways. But for the last almost 25 years, he's been serving in the United States Army as a military chaplain. And so, Tracy, boy, thank you to you and Ginger, and really I should say the whole family for your service and your ministry all through these years for Free Will Baptist, our country, and the Lord. Thank you, buddy.
It's been our honor. It really has.
Well, you're the man, buddy. You've I remember when you were going through school at Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, earned the MDiv to go and be a chaplain, and you had pastored for I think around 4-something years before that. But you went off and served our country. So share with our listeners a bit of what was that like to be a United States Army chaplain for Free Will Baptist? It's
been a tremendous journey. It really has. And as I think back over the last 25 years, I understand that I'm talking to people who have been following Christ for 40. Some of you have been married 60, 70 years. So I'm still a young buck in the scheme of things. But for the last 25 years, I mean, our nation has been at war for 20 of those years.
Yes.
So having been on the battlefield on orders for 3 times, I've been out of the nation, been out of our nation for over 5 years, looking at just opportunities that you can't foresee. Okay, and I tell people in the Army all the time, if you'll just follow Jesus, you'll find yourself in places you never anticipated you would be, but you will find a grace there that you never anticipated you could experience.
Yes. Whew. It's good stuff, isn't it?
Whew. Anyway, so you enter the process, right? And you give yourself to this idea that God's called me, and I know God has called me. Now, where God's going to call me, I don't know yet, but God has called me.
Yeah.
And having followed Christ up to the point of basic training and going through the chaplain candidate program, it has just been a phenomenal experience. But still, we're a nation at war. So everybody's asking, when are you going to go active duty? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I held off. Ron Calloway was a really good friend. He was at Tippis Chapel for years.
Yes.
Ron Calloway one day was at the church, and I looked at Ron and I said, Ron, how do you know? How do you know what God's will is? And Ron looked at me, and some of the best advice I've ever been given by another pastor. He said, Tracy, he said, if you can do anything else in life and be satisfied, you're not called.
Yeah.
And the calling to the chaplaincy was the same way.
Yeah.
Because God allowed me not to be there, but not to be satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
If God has called you to a degree or to a particular place in your life, whatever degree of faith you have, you will find yourself satisfied or dissatisfied in that process. And I was dissatisfied.
Mm-hmm. You couldn't get peace with anything.
You could not find peace.
And kept working at it and working at it.
Yep.
Next thing we know,
I went, got to a point in my life where my mother-in-law, Elaine Williamson, looked at me one day and she said, Tracy, you are miserable. And I didn't know I was miserable, but she was reading me from the outside.
Yes.
And I said, you see that I'm miserable? She said, you are miserable. You've already graduated. You've got your MDiv, but you're not free. She said, I'm going to encourage you. Now, why am I saying this? Because I want you to understand, sometimes there's the sage to your left and your right you need to listen to.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. The Spirit of God is working through people around you, and you need to understand that sometimes when you don't hear, okay,
Could be
that voice of God.
Yeah.
That God speaks through that individual right there beside you in your presence. And she said, I want you to do yourself a favor. And I said, what is it, Mom? She said, I want you to submit your chaplaincy active duty packet and let God close the door on that thing so you will be free to move on.
That was a big deal. And people are listening, you may not
Yes.
know, that meant that he'd be taking grandchildren away, be
Yes.
taking her daughter away,
Yes.
and yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And she was too willing.
Absolutely.
So-
Absolutely. And I think she gave me the freedom, okay, to kind of break that tie.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So there's a lot going on here. I submitted my packet,
Yes.
and I kid you not. I mean, I'm getting phone calls from around the nation. Yeah. It was surreal.
It was.
It was surreal.
So you're listening, you're trying to discern what is God's will for my life.
Yes.
I hear you saying, listen to godly people around you.
Yes.
Watch what they say and what they see in your life.
Yes.
But you also are talking about the importance of people being willing to give someone over, as Missy Lane was in that situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, then you find yourself jumping out of airplanes, and, which may be paying a little price for today.
Yes, that's true. That is true.
And
I was a paratrooper. I just wasn't a good one.
but you did it.
I did it.
And you
I did it.
qualified,
Absolutely.
and all the rest of it, and then you find yourself on battlefields,
Yes.
serving our military and helping them.
Here's the thing I want to point out, okay? And this can go on forever. 25 years can go on forever, okay, on a podcast. Let me just say this, that when the door opened for the United States Army, in my life experience, when I gave myself to that task, okay, I found Jesus Christ. I ain't going to say God, all right? And I shouldn't use the word ain't. Okay? I found Jesus Christ in everything I touched.
Mm-hmm.
I did. His blessing, okay? I mean, you can't ignore the fact that when you walk into a room of tragedy, the presence of God is already there, and you know before you get into the room, okay, that God's about to use you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay? That's powerful, and that's the most satisfying experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. So they were bad experiences.
There were.
But they were satisfying experiences.
Yes, yes. You can see some of the testimonials in the book Grayland.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can understand that there was part of this process that was mentally exhausting. Okay.
Yeah.
But spiritually fulfilling.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
So God used you in a great way.
Just as a tool,
Yeah.
just as a voice, just as a presence.
You were obedient and you were there.
Yes.
And He's also working through your family all during that time as well, isn't He?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. My wife and I went through miscarriages for 14 years. And on the day of our 15th wedding anniversary, Sarah is born. So every 15th, okay, of September, okay,
Yes.
I have an anniversary and our first daughter's birthday.
There you go.
Okay. I'm in the military. Now we've got 3 children. They're part of this war experience. They're going through all of these deployments. They're going through all of this, all of these chapel experiences. My children understand Jesus Christ in a way that a lot of Free Will Baptist children don't. And I'm just going to be honest with you. They did not grow up in a church. They grew up in chapels. Mm-hmm. Now we went to churches in different locations, but their predominant experience has been a chapel experience. Mm-hmm. So they went to church with Presbyterians and Nazarenes.
Yes.
Yeah,
on the base and in different places.
Different places. Yeah, we were in Europe. Okay, their growth has been different.
Yeah.
Okay, but so valuable.
Mm-hmm. Not really unlike kind of some of our missionary kids and so forth. And
exactly.
One of them is right now actually looking at going to a Christian college.
Yes.
Welch, looking at Welch today.
We're here.
Yeah.
We're here in Nashville for Welcome Days.
So they've gone through, they've developed, they've gone through that process. but it's been something for them too. It's been a challenge for them as well.
Absolutely. There's been some trauma along the way.
So our listeners are thinking, wow, what a life, what an experience. They've got a role in this as well. Yes. They can help and assist. Yeah. Let's start out, first of all, what can they do to assist like a chaplain and his family? What comes to mind that they can do?
I just want to take this moment to say, do what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Okay? Chaplains necessarily do not need financial support, but they need prayer support. And I can't tell you how many times that I've gone to the mailbox, and I don't care if it's veterans or if it's a holiday or an anniversary or a birthday, whether it's my children or my wife or myself. There have been thank you cards that would fill my automobile over the years. Mm-hmm. Okay? Just to understand that there are women active for Christ, there are men's organizations throughout the denomination, there are Sunday school classes that are lifting our name. And my picture, my family's picture is on somebody's refrigerator, you know?
That's a good thing.
Yeah, and as you get in there and you grab that orange juice, you just see that Kerr family and you go, today's the day. Yeah. And you whisper that prayer.
That's a good thing.
It's powerful. It's powerful. Yeah.
So keep praying, keep sending those notes. And don't let them be forgotten.
Yeah, absolutely. Just do what you do. Do what you do.
And then you've been taking care of so many military personnel and some difficult things and difficult places.
Yeah. As you do pray.
Yes.
As you do pray.
Yes.
Pray for spiritual discernment and clarity. Our families are in the military are going through some really, really tough times. We're looking at battlefield scenarios right now that we haven't seen since World War II. And the energy in the military, okay, is taking a toll on families. And that's the hard part about being medically retired.
Yeah.
You know, that's the hard part of walking away from that community. Mm-hmm. Okay. Pray for our nation, pray for the soldiers and their families. Okay. But pray for those chaplains, okay, and their families as they go in and they invest and they pour their lives, okay, into these young families, okay, who are seeing life in a very different way, okay, than 99% of our society, because only 1% of our society
really
plays military.
That's good. That's good stuff. Yeah. So you're listening and you're thinking, how can I do that? Or maybe where is this picture that Chaplain Kerr is talking about? You can go to the Free Will Baptist North American Ministries website. You can download it there, and we do encourage you. Put it in your church. Put it in your on your refrigerator, and pray for these folks.
Yeah.
It's really been a long journey, hasn't it, Tracy?
It's been beautiful. It's been beautiful.
Well, I want you to know, Free Will Baptist, we greatly appreciate you. We greatly appreciate Ginger and your family and the sacrifice that you all have made for us. And we just appreciate your willingness to be faithful all through these years. And we want you to know you are loved, buddy.
Thank you.
And we're praying for you as you step out and we see what the Lord has, and that you'll hear His voice clearly for the next steps.
I really appreciate that. It has been my honor. It's been my family's honor. And I just want to say to you as a denomination, thank you. The church, the whole chaplaincy, all missionaries understand this intimately. This is a collective ministry. And your blessing upon our lives with your prayers, with your cards, just a reminder that we're not alone, you know. As the old prophet kind of cried out to God, I'm all alone. And He said, no, you're not. The church stands around, and there's an entire congregation of prayers that push you along in some of the darkest days of ministry. And that energy, okay, comes predominantly by just the presence of the Spirit of God, but it also comes in the congregation of prayer and thanks. That's called the church.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Well said. And so thank you, Tracy. We appreciate you coming and being with us today. And we thank you so much for your ministry. We thank you for your faithfulness and the great sacrifice that you and your family have made to minister to others in some difficult places. We want to thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And we encourage you to take the time to thank our chaplains today. Maybe send them a note, send them a message, and remind them they're not forgotten. Let's think about our active duty personnel, and let's think also about our veterans. And I think you heard today what you do really does matter.
Yes,
those cards, those prayers, those messages, they truly do make a difference. And we say better together all the time, but it is true. It is true. And so thank you for every little thing you do, and remember, it matters, and we so appreciate you taking the time to join us today.